Hey folks, this is your host, the one, the only, the man of the hour, Thrifty Gamer 83, bringing you a look at Advent Rising for the Xbox. Well, not really a look, but just a retrospective of a game which hype helped to kill. Advent Rising was one of the biggest games that has ever flopped since E.T. It was unquestionably one of those games which really shouldn't have been released until everything had been fixed. There are multiple glaringly obvious game-breaking bugs which cause it to not only freeze, but instead of saving progress or reloading the last checkpoint, what does it say to the user? No, I don't have to do that! That's right, Majesco released such an unfinished product. Advent Rising is absolutely one of the worst games I have ever played. The lock-on mechanic for the third-person shooter section is broken. The first-person mechanic switch is broken. To me, Advent Rising just underwhelms. And considering the talent behind what should have been a masterpiece with Orson Scott Card, and yet it flopped. Advent Rising completely flopped. I got Advent Rising for $5 from a Goodwill, and I thank God it was only $5. Advent Rising is one of those games which you should not play. With all of the game-breaking bugs, with all of the glitches, with all of the borderline schizophrenic frenzy that it tries to have with being a role-playing game, a first-person shooter game, a third-person shooter game, introducing some stealth mechanics. Yeah, Advent Rising just plain doesn't work. It doesn't work for me as a game. It never worked as a game. Majesco, after sinking millions of dollars, got a well-deserved kick up the rear end for unleashing upon the world such an unfinished product. It was underwhelmingly simplistic. It really just rattles me that it was ever released. If it were released, say, in the present day and age, if it had been a freemium download game, yeah, maybe I could understand it. But it had been one of the biggest letdowns for the Xbox. As well, it kind of was a swan song for Orson Scott Card in the regards that since Advent Rising flopped, a lot of other projects have flopped as well, including planned sequels to Advent Rising. And yet, here we are today, looking at Advent Rising, trying to just say one decent thing about it. I suppose the weapons selection isn't that bad. They give you varied weapons, but they all have the same mechanics. Some are fast shooting. Some are... They can't really decide if they're fast shooting or just a medium rifle that lets off 3 burst rounds. And of course, you have grenade launchers and rocket launchers, but when you try to use them in third-person lock-on, they're just about useless. You have to go to the first-person mechanic. And as well, that includes heat lock-on rockets. Yes, the thing is completely broken and buggy, and just, it could send any user, any player, ballistic. Really? Did Majesco even think, when they released this game, just how mind-numbingly bad it could be? Advent Rising was just something you wanted to take out behind a woodshed, wrap up some quarters in a sock, and it would have just been so sweet to break it. I really loathe Advent Rising. It is part of my collection, but it's the part that is mediocre. It lives in Mediocreville. It brings the meals to every other mediocre game out there. It begs for us to say, well, we'll give it a chance. Don't give it a chance! Do not give Advent Rising a chance. It will frustrate you. The controls are completely glitchy with the multiple stops and goes. You swear that you are playing red light, green light, and yet you are trying to play a game on the Xbox, the original Xbox, which can handle games like Halo, Fable, Halo 2 even, and yet Advent Rising completely just beats the Xbox over the head with mediocrity. I am glad that Majesco kind of folded up the operations, but not glad that it was their swan song into becoming the Cooking Mama importers. To me, oh man, Advent Rising, they should have just gone back to the drawing board instead of releasing it. I played a PC demo back in the day, and yes, it was just as glitchy. Yes, it was just as buggy as the final release product. That is, the final release. Advent Rising. Yes, the final release candidate was as bad as the demo. How? Why? A game that can just hold barely to 30 to 60 frames per second. Wow! Wow! Just the slowdown. And yes, as I play it, I am using one of my fastest capture cards. And really, it boggles the mind as to why Advent Rising had millions of dollars funneled into it. It boggles the mind as to why they got Orson Scott Card involved. They could have really just written this game, taken it, and released a mediocre product without any other names attached, without turning Majesco into the tire fire, which became the Cooking Mama importer of choice. Really, Advent Rising was not only killed by its own hype, it helped to kill off Majesco legitimately for action-adventure games. You no longer see Majesco looked at in any serious light to be involved with games like Advent Rising. They completely put the cart before the horse, and with Orson Scott Card, who has recently gone off the deep end, yeah, you can kind of see why everything has just been a dismal flop and failure. When you look back at Advent Rising, when you look at the millions of dollars thrown away into it, they just became a tire fire. And it just is one of those games, as I said before, you just want to take it out back and just hit it with quarters. You don't just want to break the disc, you want to break everything that it has come into contact with. I cannot believe that I've actually played Advent Rising. It's something that just makes my eyes bleed. The colors are completely drab. The backgrounds are just unbelievably, uncharacteristically bad. Advent Rising, you are a bland, mediocre shooter. You are the game which others want to so badly avoid becoming. Alright, folks. Rant, rave, love, hate. Click my subscribe button. You're keeping my show on the air. Have a good one.